This is NFA Talk, the show that talks about guns and gun rights, keeping you up to date with what's currently going on, from the newest guns, promotions, and events, plus how we're lobbying for your rights.
All right, it's time for another episode of NFA Talk. I'm Jordan Vandenhoff. Joining me tonight, we have Blair Hagen, our president, Rick Igercich, our vice president, and Charles Zach, our guy in Ottawa, our full-time in-house lobbyist. And we got a few things on the go for tonight, and I think we're going to start it off with the important announcement that was yesterday, and that was...
The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act. The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act.
Wow. So that's the first, this is the third time now that that act has been fourth time that that act has been enabled. I'm shocked, like a whole bunch of truckers in Ottawa, and we're going into the Emergencies Act.
Really? Well, the first time was World War I. The second time was World War II. And the third time was the FLQ crisis in Quebec. Imagine that. Imagine who was running the country at that time.
And just
for your people that weren't around, like some of us, that would be Pierre Elliott Trudeau.
And just look at the types of incidents that precipitated this. Okay, World War I, everybody gets that. Okay, it's a war. It's a world war. World War II, same. World War II, the same thing. FLQ crisis, interesting. That was for those of us who have joined us who weren't around then. I mean, that was 1970 in response to a series of terrorist acts by a group called the FLQ in Quebec. A series of bombings, fairly serious bombings, and the kidnapping of a British diplomat, James Cross. So, although personally, even though I was just a kid at the time, if I were an adult, I would not have agreed with the imposition of the War Measures Act at that point. I mean, there was a lot of terrorist violence going on, so that was the justification that was used. Now, carry that forward to today. My God, the incident, the excuse that was used to do this, you know what this is? This is a failure of government policy, okay? It's not the truckers' fault, okay? They've got legitimate concerns. I know a lot of people don't like the way they're addressing them, but they've got legitimate concerns. These people are part of our culture, part of our economy. They work, they have lives. They're not engaging in any kind of criminal violence, yet they're faced with this, and all Canadians are faced with this. I don't know about you guys, but I'm disgusted.
Absolutely. So I'm getting a bunch of emails, and the firearms community, they're maybe, I don't know, jumping the gun on this, but they're thinking that Trudeau is going to use these emergency acts to come after our firearms.
I've been getting a lot of contact on that recently, and what I would want to tell people is, yeah, I can understand your concerns here. I mean, that's evidence of the type of paranoia that's going around in this country right now by what are essentially law-abiding regular Canadians. Will Trudeau use this measure to target my rights, my freedoms, and my property? And what I would say, because I tend to try to look at these things logically, is don't necessarily worry about that. Okay. Frankly, the law enforcement agencies in Canada have far more important things to do than to even consider trying to use this as an excuse to target individual Canadians who hold firearms licenses, own firearms, that sort of thing, and use it as an excuse to seize their property. I don't see that happening. Okay. I understand it. We're all in that position now. Whenever something like this comes up, it's like, oh my God, what are they going to do to us next? And what excuse will they use to do it? Just given my experience with this sort of thing and my experience with law enforcement, I don't foresee any mass seizures of firearms using this as an excuse, or even targeted seizures. It's really unfortunate, it speaks to a failure of government policy and a failure this is Justin's failure. Okay, the fact that he even thought it necessary to do this or thought it was a good move to do it shows that he and his government have failed in their mandate to provide for the best interests of Canadians. And I don't think anybody's going to forget this.
No, absolutely not.
So, for a second, and I want to just just piggyback on what you said. This Emergency Measures Act is not going to be used for that. Okay. There's a timeline on this. There's only a 30-day timeline. It still hasn't been voted on in Parliament. Still has to go to Senate, and then there's a 30-day period. Okay, so I wouldn't worry about the firearms so much, but I mean, there's other very egregious things that are happening in this. I mean, the fact that they can go in and freeze bank accounts, for instance. I mean, that's actually more egregious than anything out there. I mean, this is my money, and if they can freeze my bank accounts willy-nilly, arbitrary, that's once again a civil liberties breach. But we're not surprised. We've been preaching this for years that Trudeau has been, he's been itching to get, authoritarian power like Caesar, and now he has it. And as much as saying that it'll be, used, sparingly and for the protests or the demonstrations, and only in certain geographic areas, whatever that means, because that hasn't been defined either. The fact that he's actually done this, it reminds me of another spoiled rich boy who doesn't get his word, stamps his feet on the ground and says, "Mommy, mommy," and scream and wants his stuff through rant.
Yeah,
Justin is. This is not just a failure of policy, but it's a failure of character. Justin Leader is not a leader, right? This is a symptom of failure, a personal character failure. Instead of coming to the forefront and negotiating and try to talk his way out of this thing, what does he do, right? He's a bully, and he comes over there because he can use the power, and he tries to cajole people. But, just let me talk a little something about the Emergencies Act as well, too, just so everybody knows, okay? So the Emergencies Act has to meet certain tests, okay? And the tests have to, basically meet this thing about threats to the security of Canada. And there's 4 basic things that it has to meet. The first thing would be like espionage and sabotage that's happening in Canada. Okay, that's certainly a stretch. That's not happening. Okay, foreign influenced activities within Canada, that's also a stretch. Activities related to using mass violence, right? Also a huge stretch. And of course, there's the the specter of revolution. That's the 4th test. That is also a stretch here. Now, they're trying to spin this to make it fit into one of those categories so they can rationalize what they've just done. I think they've just shot themselves in the foot again, and this may be Justin Trudeau's swan song, just like his father did when he did this way back when. I was 12 at the time. And even back then, people didn't like this, right? The War Measures Act brought armored personnel carriers into the streets, people, soldiers with FNs, and people were more afraid because of what he did, and it inflamed things. And I think the same thing will happen here again.
Maybe he'll follow his father's footsteps, right?
Yeah. Just imagine though, 2 weeks ago it was a small fringe group of radicals, and now he's enacting the Emergency Measures Act. Where has time gone, Justin?
What kind of worries me though is now that they're starting to change language again, because the RCMP found a small group, about 13 people that had armed themselves, and they had a rash of certain firearms and some ammunition and some body armor. So now they're starting to say the militia. They're using that word militia. So they're trying to put fear into the public that, hey, now all of a sudden we have these militias forming, and like 13 people. Our friends in the South are probably just laughing at us. I mean, the world right now is laughing at us. All U.S. media news outlets are just having a heyday with this, with what Trudeau's doing. So kudos to Trudeau. You put us on the world stage yet again, right?
Yeah, every crime that's happening now, and there's some bad crimes, but everything is being shifted towards the truckers right now. He's using every possible conceivable crime out there, and somehow he's relating it to the trucker protest. That's just the way that the Liberals work.
For a party that claims to be wanting to not be divisive, we're the party of inclusion. We're the party of all Canadians. We represent everybody. This is the most divisive government and the most divisive prime minister in modern Canadian political history, and I include his father in that. My God, I mean, how they have lost their way. Even liberal supporters, I cannot understand why even dyed-in-the-wool, lifelong liberal supporters could still support him as leader. I mean, he's gone against everything that party claims to represent,
And
and
they will
it's
now.
not going to be forgotten.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the nerve to even have to talk to the truckers. He's been hiding ever since it started. He refuses to meet with them, and that's something for a prime minister is not right. There's something out there. People have concerns. Meet with them and discuss the matter, but he refuses to. And I was watching Parliament the other day, and he was skated around that subject 3 or 4 times when they asked him why isn't he meeting with the truckers. He just refuses to, and he's got the classic political liberal answers of shift it to some other notion or question, just to get around it.
He's not meeting with them because they're not his people.
Exactly.
These people are not liberal supporters. They're not liberal voters, at least not anymore. So why would he bother?
You know what?
He can
We're
use
in the
them.
same category here. We've been trying to lobby these people for years, and they're silent, right? They don't want to have a toe-to-toe discussion because they know that the truth is on side, and they can't stand the light of that truth, and it'll just make their narrative collapse. So yes, they're avoiding us, but this is nothing surprising to us. We've been the truckers for the last 25 years. Yes. Okay, so yes, the spotlight's now focused over on Ottawa and the truckers, but we have been the political football for years. We totally understand this. So this is a lot of political theater. I really feel that this measure that he took is really an act of desperation, and I think it's going to backfire a lot. He's been trying desperately to control the situation so that he can use his pandemic measures, which are an abject failure, and use that as a success thing and ride it into another election. Well, that boat has sunk, right? That's just not going to happen anymore. We know that double, triple vaccinations, you still get the virus, and you can do this and do that. His measures have done nothing except cause a lot of harm to the Canadians, the economy, and certainly to the unity of this country. I've never seen this country so balkanized and divided. Even at my own kitchen table, you see it. I'm sure everybody does, right? This is all stops at Trudeau's desk. And as soon as he's gone, we can get back to normal. And that means getting our freedom, liberties back.
That's exactly the thing. But in order to do that, he's got to be defeated in the next election. I think we're preaching to the choir here. I mean, everybody probably watching this, except for the trolls who are trying to gain some kind of intel on that sort of thing, know that in order for this stuff to come to an end, his government has to be defeated. And I know NFA members are going to double down on that. We're actively getting ready for the next election. We know what our mandate is and what we have to do, but I mean, sorry, folks, if you think that, and God bless the truckers, but I mean, if you think protests are going to stop this, they're not. It's a great way to show the frustration to Canadians, but I think Justin is not intelligent enough to do the right thing and come to the table on any of this stuff. If you think that lawsuits in regards to firearms legislation or OICs is going to stop those efforts, no, that's not going to stop them either. The only thing that will stop them is political action and defeating this government in the next election. Those are our issues. There are a lot of other issues that they deserve to be defeated over. And I think there's more Canadians now who know they have to do the right thing than certainly in the previous election or the election before that.
Absolutely. So while we're still talking about trucks, in other news, it's all over the media right now that there was a truck in Ontario that went missing that was holding over 2,000 firearms, and they say most the first reports were they had clips attached to them. It goes to show the research that these writers put into their work.
Are you sure there weren't end blocks?
right? And
Well,
so
high capacity clipazines, right?
Yeah, clipazines. Yeah.
Clipazines, yeah.
So and later on it was released that it was a transporter for Savage Arms, and now they're saying that it was low power rifles that went missing. So that's quite interesting, right?
Yeah, and it shows the terminology used by the media today. Well, low power rifles, 22s, that's not as bad, right? Come on. A gun is a gun as a gun, and any gun is dangerous in the wrong hands. So it's this idea that we'll have this escalating, oh, they're only 22s, so it's not as bad as it could be. No.
Well, then again, most AR-15s are only 22s too, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, AR-15 is a low-power rifle compared to a lot of other rifles.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what really gets me is I don't understand certainly why a professional group of thieves would do this. I mean, they literally hijack a semi with 2,000 firearms in the trailer. What are they going to do with those firearms? Seriously, you've got 2,000 firearms in a trailer. They got to go somewhere, and you have to hide them. Okay. Now, your criminal enterprise, you want to sell these things, okay? You want to sell them on the black market, on the criminal market. Who is going to buy them? I mean, where are you going to go? Are you going to sell them at gun shows? That's a lovely table full of brand new Savage firearms there. Yeah. Where did you get those? Heck of a deal, and I'm passing on the savings to you. And again, what are you going to do? Offer them to firearms retailers? Firearms retailers going to go, where did you get all these things? Okay, who are you, and where did you get this wonderful stash of brand new Savage firearms? So I don't know if this was deliberately targeted or if they just made a mistake by stealing the trailer. What do you think?
Well, you know what, basically I think that they're focusing on this because they wanted to make it fit with the Emergencies Act that we talked about, the insurrection thing that they're trying to create this image, right? But let's just backtrack a little bit, okay? So, I mean, for the last 20 years, we've been monitoring what the police and the military have been losing. And they've been thousands and thousands and thousands of firearms that have been lost, right? So certainly. How come we're not talking about that, right?
Well, you know what? Charles mentioned that. I was talking to an actual real reliable source yesterday. He's a retired, I'm not gonna mention the man's name, but he's a retired OPP guy, and he worked in Aurelia. And when he left Aurelia, there was 2 RCMP guys there, and at that time there were 7,800 OPP firearms missing. This is just in Ontario, just with the Ontario Provincial Police. I guess when they first got there were 78. When he left, there were still 5,400 firearms missing. Where are those guns? That's my question. We know where all our guns are. They're locked in our safes. Where are all these guns?
And this is not to impugn the reputations of law enforcement agencies
absolutely not.
or police or anything like that, because as we all know, these types of thefts or loss of firearms can happen, and they take that seriously and they're on it. But the fact of the matter is they do happen, and they certainly use so-called law-abiding firearms owners as a scapegoat, where they're not necessarily inclined to do so when it comes to law enforcement agencies or the military. It's a problem in every quarter, but let's not try and use this as an excuse to impose this type of as justification for this type of clearly insane act. An emergency act simply to address this issue of the Freedom Convoy is nothing justifies that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right. I just want to chime in too. So, the police have central storage, right? And it goes to show that, even with central storage, that these firearms are going missing. That's one of the things on the table with this government is they keep pushing these words out of center storage, and they're trying to make this happen. So, I mean, right off the bat, like their own police forces cannot, keep track with center storage. Now they want every firearms owner out there to take their firearms to these locations and see what happens, right? Like, that's crazy.
What locations? These locations don't exist.
You mean like a tractor trailer with 2,000 guns in it? Well, talk about an easy target.
And let's go back to that for a second. I don't think this was targeted because I don't think it had a big Savage Arms sign on the truck. Very discreet. I'm sure that they don't put the word out that hey, this truck is going around. I think it was just opportunity. These people went into a shipping yard. They were snooping around. They opened up the truck and they opened the doors and oh my God, there's all these firearms. Hey, they probably have value. Let's take them. Right. There was other reports I heard that there was ammunition on the truck as well, but they didn't touch the ammunition. They just took the firearms. Right.
No, trucking companies will not transport firearms and ammunition in the same load. So there would not have been ammunition.
Okay, so I mean, there's the rumor mills are flying around there.
What I heard, it's all long guns. So unless all the street gangs in the cities across Canada are going to get really long coats, they're pretty hard to conceal. So I think I have to agree with Blair. I think it was just it was a hit, and they go, wow, we got a bunch of guns. Now what do we do with them?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But once again, they're right after that happened, what did they do? They go to the pseudo leadership of the convoy. There really isn't one. Some people have stepped up to be sort of talking heads, but they asked them right away, and they're grilling these people. What do you know about these guns, right? Like trying to set it up once again to justify the Emergencies Act measure.
Yeah.
Are you trying to bring in arms to fuel this insurrection, this occupation, all these inflammatory words that they're using, to basically describe a legal, peaceful protest that's happening. I've been to several of these, and the ones in Toronto, for instance, there's never been any kind of violence or any kind of vandalism or anything like that. It's usually a love fest, and that's what they talk about. Unity.
Yeah. Well, I think they're seeing I think they're seeing the bouncy castle as a threat, as a
That's a diversion. It's a diversion.
Yeah.
It's a diversion from the
Yes, it is.
the racist insurrectionists.
Yeah.
We are the scapegoat.
Yeah, it's a fortified bouncy castle.
Yes.
I think the
With
mainstream
ramparts and
media.
the whole package.
I think the mainstream media in this country has been very, very disingenuous in its reporting and actively trying to create the narrative that the government is pushing forward. Okay. It's a very, very, scary one for a lot of Canadians. Nobody wants to see insurrection. Nobody wants to see violence. But if we can put that on the news every night, and in every radio report, it's going to get people tuning in. Hey, have they tried to take over Ottawa yet? And it's very, very irresponsible, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
We touched on this on the last show too. We touched on this on the last show. And I made the point that now to get the facts and true news, you have to tune into Fox News in the States because they're not shifting it around. You know what? It's concerning to me that Canadian news has to be dictated by the liberal politicians on the way things come out. They can't. This is what our country's come to, folks. We can't even get real news from the news media in Canada. We have to listen to Fox News in the United States to find out what's happening in Canada.
But it's not even the United States. It's also the UK. It's India. It's New Zealand is chiming in as well too. So these are international critics, these news people that are chiming in, and they're the ones that are actually doing the job that our own media should be doing.
They're on the street. These people are on the street.
Of democracy, they're not doing that, right?
There is alternative media in Canada that is reporting this.
Yep.
The mainstream media will not do it, but we have alternative media in Canada. It's not that hard to find, and I think Canadians are starting to rely more and more on that media as they become, frankly, disgusted with the performance of mainstream media in this country.
The alternate media in Canada is growing daily now because you know what? They're pushing the facts out there too. And, that's the thing too, even when you go to these other country news sites, they're using the alternate media in Canada to get some of their information, but they're also sending their people here and getting in on the street. Yeah. They're on the street. They're talking to truckers. They're talking to politicians. They're doing it the way Canadian media should be doing it, and they're not. It's almost like, this is just my opinion, but it's almost like Canadian media has their marching orders before they even start their broadcast. They don't care what's going on the street. They just care about their marching orders, and they just follow through with them, just get their paycheck at the end of the week.
Well, you know what?
Journalism in Canada has been kneecapped for a long, long time.
Totally.
A lot of editors do not want to see people reporting inconvenient facts that divert from the narrative. It's very, very lazy. It's very, very corporate, and it doesn't serve Canadians.
Yeah, let's not forget
Well,
too that the media has been it's a conglomeration now. So as much as we have CTV and CBS,
Global.
CBC and everything, global and everything else, right? There is a cadre of directors that are directing the message, and we've all seen this across the country. CTV Global will almost parrot exactly what the other stations are saying because there's a script, right? It's interesting. I went to this. I went to the Toronto protest, and CBC was there, Global was there. There was some other stations out there, and they are feeling the wrath of the people. The first thing that people say, "Who are you?" Right, and as soon as they hear that it's City TV or something like that, they give them both barrels, and they just start lambasting these people for being, basically. Agents of what's going on out there, which is not a good thing. So
they're the authors of their own misfortune, and I just don't want to go back to this, but I'm gonna. For example, Charles and I were at the Katanko shooting press conference, and all the major networks were there. They didn't want to talk to us, to get our side of it. They refused. You know what? They did us a couple of complimentary interviews, but that never aired. There was a few small TV stations and stuff that aired our stuff, but they refused to. Yep. It's a prime example. They have their mandate and they're following it.
It's called lying by omission, and that's what they do best.
Yep.
It's still a lie.
It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't fit in their narrative, right? So why would they give us the time of day?
But sometimes we do, and if you look at the media that National Firearms Association has gotten in the past, what is it done for? What is the narrative they are trying to create? They're trying to create the same kind of NRA bogeyman in Canada as they do in the United States, and that's the role we serve for mainstream media here. And they think we don't notice this. Come on.
Yeah, they don't give the citizens of Canada enough credit. They think they can manipulate elections by spreading all this false news, this fake news out there. But people in Canada don't fall for that stuff. You're right, Blair. No. People aren't going to fall for it. They do it so bad. It's so easy to read between the lines.
The ramifications of this in the end is that Trudeau knows that a lot of people don't care about things, and they just watch the news and they'll take it for face value of what they're saying. But if this ever gets out, that the government and the media colluded with them, to take advantage of, low information viewers, or people just don't care, and they exploited them to get their agenda going, there's going to be a tremendous blowback here at all levels, right? Nobody wants to be taken for a ride like that.
No.
Right. So on another note, it's gun control season, and there's a lot going on with the special committees that the SecU has been having ongoing meetings. Today they had another one, and it was really interesting. This morning, they brought on two witnesses that are part of movements that are not really gun friendly, but yet when they were asked the question, "Do you guys support the gun bans?" They followed suit with the police and everybody else. They don't think that this buyback is going to work. They think it's a total waste of money, and they'd rather see the government go in a different direction and use the resources to better educate, better youth programs. And I still don't understand why the government is pushing for this buyback. Like, the police departments have now said they don't support it. Some of the movements have now said that they do not support it. Any thoughts, guys?
Well, I think he's going to try to play it into the next election again. This was his big play. He got the Conservatives spinning on the issue, and I think he's going to try to do the same thing again. He's going to use it to his advantage. Whether it goes anywhere or not doesn't matter to him. It matters to him. The only thing that matters to him is to get reelected, and I think he's going to use it as an election wedge again. That's what they do. That's what liberals do.
It's a great divisive issue, and it can be used in a number of different ways, as we saw in the last election. Liberals already had all the anti-gun votes sewn up. So why readdress the issue that late in the campaign to divide conservative voters? And it worked. Okay. And I would think that they would hope to do that in the next election. I don't know if they'll have a leader, a conservative leader, who will fall for it like the previous one did. But it's one of those issues, hot button issue. It's sexy, it's high profile, and if they can use it to their own purposes, they will. And logic and common sense be damned, because we all know, number one, the OIC is completely illogical. Gun bans are completely illogical. The idea that you're going to have a buyback in Canada and you're going to pay everybody off and they're going to turn in their property is illogical for a whole plethora of reasons. It just doesn't make sense, and it's just not logical. But if you can keep it alive as an issue, you can get some people fired up and you can divide others.
Well, you know what? And that's exactly it, right? So the Trudeau, well, the other Liberal governments know the same thing too, right? That the gun thing is a wedge issue. And when you're in desperate straits or you want to divert, attention away from your gaffes or your falling polling numbers, which is happening with Trudeau right now, they're going to trot that out to great effect, and it works. I can tell you though that, and Trudeau's polling numbers are dropping like a rock. Okay, so he's gonna double down on this, and he's gonna trot something out. I mean, people must be aware now that the commercials that are streaming now on radio and television, the regularity of those coming on stream, something is coming. It's like a sandstorm on the horizon. You can see it coming. You don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's certainly you can feel the pressure from it. And Trudeau will do this.
Right. Well, they're trying to turn the page, right? So they're trying to change, the direction of the truckers and what's going on in Ottawa. Let's distract the public. Let's throw out gun control, because that seems to be their go-to.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, in the second half of the SECU meeting today, they started going on about magazines again and high-capacity magazines. Now, in Canada, you're in a semi-automatic, you're allowed 5 rounds in rifle and 10 rounds in pistol. 22 LR rimfire, there's no magazine capacity, and anything that's like pump action and tube with a tube, you have no capacity limits either. Hunting, it's I believe it's three rounds. So they're going on, and they're coming up with this. Hey, we've got to take away high capacity magazines, and then they further say we don't believe that you should have more than 5 rounds in total for both pistol and for rifle. These people need to be educated. They want to try to control something. They have no idea what they're talking about.
I hate to say this, but no, you're not going to educate them. And they do not want to be educated.
Nope.
Okay. There's something weird in among liberals and people who don't particularly like firearms. If you know anything about firearms, if you have experience with firearms, you're not qualified to comment on this stuff. No. You have to be ignorant. You have to be uneducated, because that's the only way you can make the proper decisions on gun policy. The more you know, well, you get into all kinds of things where it's like, well, that doesn't aid us in taking guns away.
But radical views don't fit in the same category, because if you have radical views, they'll let you talk all you want. It's just if you're knowledgeable about the firearms, they won't let you speak.
In all my years of doing this, I've been dumbfounded by the fact that if you actually have experience with firearms law, in the firearms industry, those sort of areas, you're not qualified to comment on it, according to the Liberal government. Because you have vested interests, you have beliefs we don't support. Well, yeah, we do, but we also have experience, and we understand the reality of firearms in Canada, and you do not. And they do not want to face that reality because it does not serve their purposes.
And I've seen this many times with liberal, not just liberals, but MPs, even some conservative MPs out there that are anti-gun, and there's many of them out there. So they don't want to listen to the evidence. I give them empirical evidence, and it's like the lights go off on the porch. They don't comprehend that there's something different than what they've already preconceived and already believe in. So you're right. They're not going to get educated. They don't want to be educated because this is a narrative that's been going on for a long time.
Well, they're getting direction from their leadership not to cooperate or to listen. Also, it's just not. There's a lot of good MPs out there.
Yep.
There's a lot of even liberal MPs that are firearms guys. But when you get a direction from the top not to comment on firearms, not to talk about firearms, well, you know what you do? You listen to what comes down from the top. It's as simple as that.
Well, you know what? Aaron O'Toole tried that, and it still didn't work. Okay, so he tried to whip people into believing this and that and the other thing. Well, everybody has a conscience, and they have their own value systems and principles, and that in a representative democracy where people are allowed to have freedom of expression, that's an insult. And that, he paid the ultimate price for that. He lost the job, and that was a righteous thing to happen.
Yeah,
right?
And he blindsided us. He blindsided us bad with that. I've been looking at some of the comments here too, and we got blindsided on this just like everybody else did.
Totally did.
Of course, we're talking about supporting conservative. Of course, we did. We need a party that has seats. We need a party that's going to get seats in Ottawa, but he blindsided us, and people got to realize that too.
That was a failure of his campaign in the dying days.
Yeah.
Okay, that party started that campaign with a solid firearms reform policy, and it carried them through most of the campaign. But when things got desperate in the last days of the campaign with the liberal anti-gun attack ads, that's when they fell apart. Okay, and I think it was classic Ottawa politics. I know I alluded to this in my last column in CFJ. The bright boys and girls in Ottawa advised the leader, well, you've got to seem reasonable on these things now. I mean, you've got the election in the bag. You want to keep that momentum going. You got to show Canadians that you're reasonable on this. It had the opposite effect. That issue, the firearms issue, combined with a number of others that the Conservatives and O'Toole flip-flopped on in the last election, cost them that election. They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, and they own it.
Yeah. And you know what? Those people that either cajoled or misled Aaron O'Toole, and Aaron took that verbatim, they're all gone now. Okay, so they had a budget. I'm not going to mention any names here. We all know the major actors there. They are they've got mud on their face now in terms of the firearms community. So they are no longer there. That doesn't mean there's others not waiting to take their place. From what I've heard is that there's a lot of Harper campaign managers now knocking on the door again, trying to get the contracts for the next round of, for the next cycle. So I'm not sure if that's good or bad yet, but of course we'll be there trying to, educate these people and let them know what we're expecting. And we're expecting a lot this time. We've been expecting a lot for a long time. So
we need our people to get out there too. There's 10 of us spread across the country. We need our people to get out there and push the issues too. The more people you talk to, the more anti-gun people you talk to, and you explain stuff to them. One or two here. It's it adds up to a lot. Ounces turn into pounds turn into tons, right?
And you know what? It's been my experience that has been happening, and that was the big thing back in the 90s under C-68, because a lot of people were very concerned. This is a massive government assault against our cultural heritage. Is this sport dying? We seem to be a lot of old white guys. Where's the new blood? Where are new people coming in? And I think certainly at that time, and I think it's carried forward to today, there's been a great effort in making sure that shooting sports and firearms ownership is communicated and made available to every Canadian who wants to participate. So I don't see a problem with that. There are probably some people out there now saying, geez, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm good at that sort of thing. I understand what you guys are saying. I'd love to do that, but I just don't think I'm good. No, you are good enough to do it. Do it in your own way. Do it in your own community. Do it in your own family. It's all good.
And you know what? And don't sell yourself short either. I'm looking at some comments. Anti-gun people will never listen. You know what? I know a lot of anti-gun people, and I know a lot of anti-gun people that aren't anti-gun people anymore. After I talked to them, I took them to the range. I let them shoot some guns, and I showed them how much fun it is shooting a gun, shooting a handgun, shooting a rifle, shooting a shotgun. You know what? They didn't. The comments a lot of times are, "Well, I didn't know this was this much fun. I didn't realize this was really this safe." Yeah. Well, you know what? people out there, take some anti-gunners to the range. Take them to the range, shoot some guns. Have some fun with them. They'll see how much fun it is, and they might get a whole different perspective. It's happened to me, and I'm sure it could happen to a lot of people out there.
And if you want to know how to do it effectively, get involved with National Firearms Association.
Absolutely.
We will show you how to do it effectively.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're all about, is education, especially political activism and advocacy. So, hey, we're the source for that. If you want to be a pro-gun leader, if you want to be a pro-gun professional and protect and advance this Canadian right and cultural tradition, we're more than happy to help. As soon
as these lockdowns stop, we're going to be all over the country. We're going to be having some meet and greets, some fun shoots. We'll be setting up stuff as much as we can. We've done it in the past, and what a great way. You know what? You don't need a license. You don't need anything. You show up to the range. We'll safely show you how to handle a firearm. We'll load it for you, and we'll make sure nothing happens. And you shoot the thing all day long if you want. And that's what we're going to do. That's what the NFA, that's another thing the NFA does that people don't realize. We go out and we promote ourselves all over the country, with live firearms on live gun ranges.
And that's what everybody should be doing out there. If you don't want to partake, at that kind of level that we're talking about, go out and take somebody out and take them shooting, go out and shoot yourself. Buy yourself another gun. Certainly buy yourself another handgun, because that's going to be on the chopping block for sure. Support your firearms retailers. Support the people in your neighborhood who are hunters. If you cow down to this and create a vacuum, the antis will fill it, and then we lose. You have to draw your line in the sand, or whatever you can do, and stand your ground.
Yeah, I'm just reading their Dark Vapor, extremely long range shooter here, and that's my addiction. You know what? They're dark. That's mine too. I love shooting long range stuff.
Yeah, it looks like they want us to come back to Silverdale again. That was our what was it, BYOG, Bring Your Own Gun event, meet and greet, great time out in Silverdale. Met a lot of people out there. We had great conversation going, and I was on the line when I wasn't talking with people. Rick, you were on the line watching to make sure everybody was safe. And it was great. We did some interviews. Charles, you invited some MPs to come out, and we did a little shoot and talk with them. And that's something that I think moving forward, like Rick said, when the lockdowns end, we're going to start moving around all of Canada. We are a National Firearms Association, so we're going to try to hit up everywhere. Maybe we'll be at St. Anne's again at the Silverdale Gun Club. Great times, check out our website, nfa.ca. That's where all our stuff is posted. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us at info@nfa.ca, or if you want to talk about the show, NFA Talk at nfa.ca. Reach out to us. Let us know what you guys think. Also, in the comment sections, we read everything. Tell us what you think. We look forward to having conversations with our members. And if you're not a member, sign up.
Another thing out there too, guys, if you got a gun club and you guys want to have a town hall with a bunch of people on a webinar type meeting or something, give us a call. Get a hold of Jordan. We'll set it up. We'll be more than happy to have a webinar with your gun club. We've done it in the past. If we can get 10, 20, 30 people together and have a chat of what of the current events and what's going on and what we're doing, feel free to contact us. We're out there for you. We're not, we're doing this for ourselves because we want to keep our guns. But you know what? We're out there for you. If you feel free to contact, get a hold of Jordan. He'll set it up. And you know what? Blair and I, Charles, and whatever other directors want to come along, we'll attend and we'll talk to your gun club. It's all about information and getting the information out there. If we can get information up to 30 guys, and maybe those 30 guys can get out to 5 guys each, the word spreads pretty quick.
And Rick, maybe we should also touch on the safety training and holster course that that you're heading up, right?
Yeah. If folks don't know, I'm the training or firearms training and education chairman for Canada. We've got the NFA offers range safety officer courses. We've got instructors right across Canada. If your gun club is interested in making some of your guys into RSOs, I would be more than happy to send one of my guys out or come out personally and teach you a course. We've been doing I just did one about, 4 or 5 weeks ago in Southwest Alberta. I'd be more than happy to come out to your gun club and teach a course. And we also offer holster training. A lot of gun clubs don't let people holster their guns on the line. Some will if their members are trained in a safe manner and how to draw and how to do it safely. And I would be more than happy, or one of my guys would be more than happy. One of my guys or gals would be more than happy to come out and teach a holster course or an RSO course. Just, you know what? If you guys want to do something, feel free to email me, rick@nfa.ca, and I will be more than happy to send something up.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that NFA, it's in our slogan, right? Safety, freedom, safety, responsibility. That's one of the things we strive for, right? Firearm safety. That's a big thing. So we've been going for about 45 minutes now. I think we pretty much covered everything. I'm sure there's many more meetings coming up in the SACU, and I'm sure Trudeau is going to do something stupid in the next couple days. So we'll probably be back in the next couple days, and we'll be talking about that. Thanks guys for joining me tonight, and thank you everybody for tuning in. And I think we'll cut it here.
All right.
So, take care, guys.
Take care, guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of NFA Talk. Like and follow the NFA on social media and sign up to become a member.